Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Adventure Stars podcast. How, my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click that subscribe button, everybody. This is a fantastic episode because aboard the mothership is Daniel Himschoot. He's a stunt performer in films like Mad Max Fury Road and Tomb Raider. He now appears in Wednesday on Netflix. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Himschoot. Thank you so much for coming to the Adventure Stars podcast.
It's good to be here.
It's totally an honor to speak with you, sir. I can't wait to discuss stunt work and Wednesday and everything else.
Yeah, well, I've been looking forward to this meeting for pretty much most of the week.
So I always start off with a question of inspiration. So what inspired your love of stunts and film, and who were your earliest influences?
Oh, that's actually fairly simple. There's two big influences that I would contribute to my kind of work in all of this is Jackie Chan being one of them, because he was able to bring about physical theater and acting into comedy as well. And then there was like David Bell and those sort of people that started in the parkour and freerunning community. That basically like kind of sparked my interest in that. And then kind of the combination of the two worked into film. If that makes any sense.
Oh, it totally does. So when you thought to yourself, you're going to find your path to becoming a stunt performer, how did you approach doing that? And what was like the requisite training that it took to get to become a great stunt worker?
Well, when I first started, prior to all the stunt work, I had already been doing freerunning and parkour for quite some time, but this was prior to the day of like internet and all of that, of where we were kind of like, we were just slowly starting all of that. So I just kind of carried on training with a group of people, and eventually I heard about the stunt industry. And at the age of 17, I kind of finished my matriculation, all of that, and I just contacted a bunch of stunt companies in the area and all of that. Like I just kind of looked into it, and next minute I knew they were doing a few trainings here and there. I went to a training, and there was a casting for a freerunning commercial, and next minute I was there. So it was a matter of everything before was just training going into what I was going to do for the future.
So when you're thinking about, it said you're doing like you said parkour. Am I pronouncing it correctly? So how does that prepare you for what you do later? Is it just training your body? Is it training your mind? How does that get you to where you ended up?
Well, that's the thing, is if you just do parkour and freerunning, is it teaches you a certain body awareness, which is useful, don't get me wrong. But when it comes to stunt performing, there's certain things like timing, understanding all other areas of the body and mimicking other movement that is something that can be taught along the way. But a lot of it I feel is somewhat innate and somewhat can be taught. And a lot of people, we will take them through. So for instance, for a show like I did, Black Sails, we would take new stunt performers through like a sort of a, not a boot camp, but something to show their skills. And through all of that, an experienced performer like me and the team that were busy, running these, would be able to take from that, okay, who can be potential performers and stuff like that. And that's kind of how people now go into the industry. When I joined, it was a lot different, but there wasn't much of an industry in South Africa back then.
So when you're thinking about someone you're working with, especially a new stunt performer, what do they need to possess for them to be successful at this?
Well, I think one of the biggest skills is actually people skills, is actually being able to communicate and be able to not oversell yourself, and to be very realistic with what you can provide and provide that service. And in the industry, you'll have things you specialize in. Every performer specializes in different things. It's not one of those industries where you have to be, oh, I only do this. But the general bread and butter, as we call it, is the being able to fight, being able to take reactions, bullet hits, things like that, all the general action that happens in movies. But we specialize sometimes in cars or high falls or like various body burns, things like that, like various different parts of the industry. But the general part that we need to be good at would be being able to fight and kind of keep to a beat. If anything, dancers actually make very good stunt performers because they're able to keep to a beat to a certain thing, whereas fighters often have more of a problem getting into stunt performing than that. But that's not to say that stunt performers shouldn't learn fighting, because I think it adds so much to what a stunt performer can do, and people that have learned fighting for years make some of the best stunt performers, without a doubt.
So one thing that I think my listeners may or may not realize, and I kind of want you to kind of discuss it, is that a stunt person is not just a stunt person, you're also an actor. How is acting an aspect of stunt performing?
So acting and stunt performing, there was once a saying, and I wish I could remember who said it, but when I was in school and I took drama as a subject, and that was one of the things that I kind of focused on. And we learned about all the different playwriters and that, and they said, act and when you need to use words. And that when, as a stunt performer, what you do is you portray all these emotions, all these things, and you do it through a physical theater, through a way of just expressing through the body. And I think that the thing that differentiates a stunt man from a stunt performer is that a stunt performer will portray all of these emotions and things through their acting of whatever's going on. And when we get the opportunity, yes, we get to deliver lines and stuff like that. And like, for instance, in the Wednesday series, I got to portray a monster through my different, through different skills I'd learned throughout the years. But it all came about, and then suddenly I'm on stilts and crutches and playing this monster in the series, and it was awesome, but all of it really stems from a physical theater, sort of physical acting ability that I think really boils down to the core of what it makes to be a stunt performer as opposed to a stunt man.
Now, sometimes as a stunt person, you're a stunt double for another actor. Now, as someone who, once again, is a stunt performer, are you also tasked with mimicking the acting of that actor, especially within the body language of that actor?
That's actually a very interesting question, because it's something that I think a lot of performers don't take into account, and was something that was taught to me from my acting schools, and is so important because one example I can really give is when I was doing Mad Max and I was doubling Nicholas Holtz for Nux. I would do scenes, because of the way that things were shot, we were all shot in different times and everything, and there were times where I was playing him, just doing a random scene, and there were times I couldn't even recognize that it was me. And part of it was that you really have to embody and get into that character, and it's not about just method acting it's studying every little movement, how everything kind of creates that part of the character. And that was part of the lessons we learned in drama, and something I took forward into stunts. And I think it makes you a better stunt double than someone who just is tough and can take the hits for you. I think it's you embody the character. So even when you doing the action, you can also make it look like the actor, because at the end of the day, all we're trying to do is make the actor look good. We're not about the recognition for ourselves. We're trying to make them look good. And the more we look like them, the more they put us on the screen. So we win either way.
So how important is the relation between the stunt double or stunt performer and the actor they're portraying? Is there a discussion, a dialogue between the two discussing an approach? Is it something that's the stunt performer is trusted with because they understand that part of it better? How does that work?
There's the relationship between the stunt double, and then there's the relationship between the stunt coordinator and choreographer and all of that. So these all kind of break down into different hierarchies, but at the end of the day, as a stunt performer, your responsibilities are make sure the actor is safe. First and foremost. So you make sure that if there's any particular padding or anything required for that actor or actress or whoever it may be, you supply that for them. You make sure that before they go onto a scene, that's your job. That's as a stunt double. But on top of that, when it comes to teaching and learning fight scenes, so like you would have seen in Wednesday, where Jenna did fight scenes and all the other actors kind of just went about their things. We had to teach them. So I was doubling for Garrett Gates during his fight in the rain, and during that time we spent about 2-3 months busy rehearsing time and time again with both actors to make sure that they could perform it absolutely to the best of their abilities. And we came in just to fill in a couple roles, and as you'll see in the movie, they actually tried to use as much of the actors as possible, because they did such a good job when we were busy going through all of the rehearsals. They brought all the emotions and everything that was actually required for the scene, and especially after seeing the series, you see the severity of what that scene kind of meant, and we tried to incorporate as much of them as possible. And I mean, we were shooting in winter under a rain rig at night at 3 a.m, running short of time. It was an absolute nightmare, but we pushed through, and we just made sure that we got the shots that we got. And at the end of the day, when I look at the end product, I'm absolutely thrilled. Like, everything is just came out amazing.
So when you're acting, doing your stunts, and you're performing across someone who definitely is not a stunt performer, let's say it's one of the actors in their character, they're obviously, for the most part, amateurs at doing what you need them to do in that stunt sequence. How does that impact what you're planning to do, knowing that the person you're doing it against is an amateur?
It sounds like a harder question than it actually is. At the end of the day, our biggest job is keeping an actor safe. And we train, and that's why you need stunt performers, is because we train to make things look like the actors are getting fucked up. They're getting like all kinds of shit's happening to them. But at the end of the day, we've been protecting them the whole time. They're all perfectly safe. Everything's okay. But we got to make everything look as rough as possible. And you know, when you're working with an actor that's not particularly skilled, you work around it with camera, with this, with that. But that's why we do the trainings. That's why we do assessments. That's why we do all of that with the actors. And prior to any of them going on screen, we actually do full assessments. We see where they're capable of, and we at least tell the directors, okay, cool, this is what we can get out of them. This is what is possible. And we choreograph everything around it and make sure that they look the absolute best they possibly can. So working with actors that might not be the most skilled in things is not even a problem. Like, I've worked with actors that couldn't even walk 2 left feet or know the left from right, and either way, they came out looking like they were the most skilled swordsman in the world, and it works. It's just all about the movie magic.
So when you're preparing for these stunts, I mean, there's a lot of these stunts that you're doing have risk. I mean, even it's just a punch to the face, it could be that or something potentially even lethal. How do you mentally put yourself in preparation to do a stunt that most of us, like me, would probably shit their pants trying?
Oh God, I wish I wish I had a very good answer for this, but I try figure out what it is in my own head. But basically, I mean, I've been in various stunts where there's various risks. I've been hung up 20 stories up in a building where my rope was coming loose by complete accident. I've been dropped from 6 foot up, or no, it was 6 stories up, down without a mat because something fell loose, and like all kinds of things go wrong. Like things go wrong, but it's like it's all part of the job, and it's what you prepare yourself for. You can't go into this kind of job thinking everything's going to be soft and cushiony. There's times where you prepare yourself mentally to go, in the next couple seconds, whatever's about to happen is going to be really rough. And I don't know if I mean, there's a new series of Warrior that's going to come out, and when that's out, you get another chance to see me performing my stunts in that. I was working on that recently, and there's a scene where I get smashed my head into a table. Now, prior to the stunt, I like checked everything. I'm like, okay, cool, things are gonna be fine, and nah, things were not fine. Like the actor just smashed my head straight into like basically a wooden table. But at that point, you can't back down. So now I just kept getting smashed into that table, and that's part of what we do, right?
Right,
So
right.
there's a certain level of like, okay, I can withstand a certain amount, but there's also a part of like we do care about safety, and it's a huge part of what we do, and that's why we always try to do everything to the safest. But if you're talking about how you mentally prep, kind of, it comes down to a thing of the 3-2-1, and when people call 3-2-1, your fight and flight kicks in, and basically it shoots this adrenaline rush through you that you basically wake up when they yell cut, and at the end of it you go, what just happened? Like, okay, and then you assess your entire body and you're like, okay, cool. So I mean, I've been hit by cars, I've been thrown across boats, I've been like every car, and at the end of the day you just wake up, you go, okay, what just happened? Okay, I'm cool, we good, I survived that one. Sweet. And you just carry on.
Well, I mean, you're a very successful stunt person. You've been nominated at the Screen Actors Guild Award and the World Stunt Award for your work on Mad Max Fury Road. As in your opinion, as a stunt performer, do stunt people get the recognition they deserve?
Well, I mean, I think that's a very sort of self-explanatory question. That they definitely don't, but I think more and more they're starting to get it. I think more and more people are starting to recognize that stunt performers are actually a part of movies, especially as things are getting more kind of crazy in the terms of Marvel, and these sort of movies that are coming out now. They're very out of this world, if that makes sense. But one of the things that I see is that in the newer movies, the sci-fi, I mean not sci-fi, CGI and that sort of thing is becoming just a very much a standard in movies. And what people are starting to forget, because you can do it on your phone, you can do it anywhere you want, is that sometimes, like in the case of Wednesday, where I'm playing the Hyde Monster, so whenever you're seeing him, it's not just a computer busy making that character. I'm on stilts and crutches and moving around with the suit on and doing all of my thing. And people nowadays just see it as a computer, and they don't recognize that people actually behind all of the CGI and all these things that you're seeing on screen is actually people and characters and people that have put their life and work into this. But at the end of the day, you do it on your cell phone, so no one really quite sees all of that.
So is there anything viewers can do to help encourage a changing of that trend, to give stunt people the credit they deserve for the work that they do, and the motion capture, obviously, people as well, such as, like you've done for on Wednesday, that is integral to the movies we're watching nowadays?
The thing is, I'm not sure there's too much the viewers can do other than to support those sides of the industry, where it's easy to support the lead actors and to do all of that. And I'm not saying they shouldn't, because by all means they put all the work in, and it's not to say anyone does more work than the other. That's never it. It's just within the industry, and I think more and more now it's starting to come into play, and like where the industry is starting to recognize that there's more to it than just the actors. It's not just the stunt department. There's the grips, there's the lighting, there's the camera, there's prosthetics, there's all different aspects of this industry that actually make this whole thing come together. And that's really what I think, when they start accepting the entire production as one, or at least as like a, accepting the different departments and not just kind of recognizing one aspect of it, that's when it kind of becomes more, how can I say, like a more immersive sort of, medal to win or something like that, where everyone actually involved, where it's not just a selective few.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, as you mentioned, you played the Hyde Monster in Wednesday on Netflix, which recently, I guess, broke the record for the most views ever on streaming. Congratulations! So how did you get involved with Wednesday, and what were you told about the role of the Hyde, or your part in playing the Hyde Monster?
Well, crazy story. I went there for 2 to 3 weeks, and I stayed there for 6 months. I was invited to go work on the show because they needed people that could double and to look like teenagers. Now I'm 30 years old now, but I with a good shaven face, I can look kind of younger. And I shaved, made sure I looked all skinny and teeny, and I took pictures, and they were like, "Cool, I'll send you through." Once I got there, then I started doubling for Percy, who plays Xavier. And so they dyed and cut my hair, did everything with that. And then I was doing that for some of the fencing scenes and the POCAP, which, oh God, that was its own thing in itself. So we did the POCAP side of things. And then after that, I started doubling Garrett Gates, and then I was going to double Rowan for something. And then next minute, I was the Monster, because I did all the rehearsals for the Monster stuff. And then I ended up doing all the Monster stuff, and I stayed for 6 months. So I walked in it very abruptly, but I stuck around.
Well, I mean, as you're mentioning, like I said, the motion capture for the Hyde Monster is an amazing visual on screen. So when you're thinking to yourself how to play a big monster that, I mean, obviously you're not a monster yourself, but you're playing this thing where the proportions are totally different than you. It's going to have different behavior. How do you plan the performance for this thing that there's no earthly thing you can just visualize, be like, I'll model it after this thing?
So what happened was, Tim had already come up with a image of this Hyde Monster, and it was something with these very long forearms, short legs, and like this big head. And we got given these sort of like circus sort of stilts that kind of give like balance to your feet. So they're not like single stilts, they're like a foot stilt, if that makes sense. And what happened was we got given that, and then we got given crutches to use. So me coming from my background, I got a hold of this very quickly, and I started playing around with it, and people started liking what I could do with it. And then the next day they said, we got to show Tim and the rest of the guys, like, there's a thing where the monster comes down the basement. And I don't know if you remember in the series, you see his feet stepping and you see him actually run down the basement. He smashes the light and then comes out at them, and they just manage it out the little window. And that's when, I'm trying to remember her name, Emma? I don't know if that's her name or the character name. Enid. Sorry, Enid.
No problem.
Is where she also crashes down in the elevator. And to tell you one thing, that was her for real. That was no stunt double. That was nothing. That was her for real. She was like, yeah, I can do it. It's fine. She was such a champ. Like, not one complaint, nothing. She was like, yeah, we go again. Like, absolutely amazing.
Nice.
But yeah, like in that scene, we had to show the director, and they just told me, strap these things on and come meet me here. And next minute, I'm got to run downstairs with all of this, and it was terrifying. Like, no safety, nothing, just like, try it out, go. But like, we're showing it in front of these people, so like, don't mess it up. Like, yeah, I just went with that, and then from there, I just played the Hyde Monster from that. And like, to be honest, I didn't even know who the Hyde Monster was right till the end of the show.
now in the show there, without giving too much away, there's a climatic fight with the Hyde Monster and one of the other monsters on the show.
Yeah.
What was that experience like?
So that was a fun experience because the other monster was played by one of my friends, and Maxime, who's a French stunt performer. And me and him, we worked long and hard on that fight, and there was a lot more that we wanted to add to it, and there was so much, but you know, time constraints and budget and that. But I was incredibly proud of that fight. Like, I tell you one thing, like, between the wires and, oh my word, like, just, if you see in the opening scene where I'm running and I plow Wednesday into that tree stump, like, don't get me wrong, that's not even sped up. That was for real. They literally pulled me on a wire from the front and yanked me, so I had to just keep up with the speed and plow into a solid object. Like, it was insane. Like, everything we were doing was completely real. Like, when they kicked the monster and he hits a tree, like I hit the tree for real. I wasn't supposed to, I just did, by accident, and it was hilarious. But like, we had a great time shooting that. Like, it was late night, it was on like an intensive schedule, but we just went on and on and on, and it was really one of my favorite fights to shoot in that entire series.
See, I'm actually really surprised that, without giving a spoiler away, they didn't tell you who the Hyde Monster actually was, and they held that from you. Did they give you any like indication, like maybe you need to do this or that because the actor is like this or that or anything?
I only found out because of a costume I put on once when I was doing some CGI shots for them. And that's the only time I found out. But I didn't find out for the entire movie. And even once our merchandise was made with the Hyde Monster's image on it, we were told never to show that until the series comes out. So we weren't even allowed to wear our merchandise because that was too much of a giveaway. So we kept that all secret, and I didn't even know about it till the end of the movie.
So you have a Hyde Monster toy?
I have all the merchandise. So I have like a buff that has the eyes. I have a shirt. I have pants. Yeah, they kind of did a whole thing.
How cool was that?
I mean, that's the one thing. We were working with Hits International and with Brett Chan, and he loves merchandise for his show, and he loves to give away a lot of things. So he's a great boss to work for.
Very cool. So as we kind of mentioned earlier, Wednesday is basically the biggest streamed show in history. More people watch it than Stranger Things, which is very. I mean, I didn't think anything would be Stranger Things, but apparently Wednesday did. What is that like for you?
I honestly didn't expect it right off the bat. Like I had mixed feelings about it. But the one thing that always made me kind of be sure about it was the fact that Tim Burton was directing. And, you know, Tim Burton has never made a flop up till now. Like, there's like, what can he do that is wrong? He does everything amazing. And what he did with this, he took a genre that, like, you know, I feel could easily have been turned corny and too, you know, like just not something that everyone wants to see, into something that actually it's multi-generational and speaks to each person, and then incorporates all the amazing, beautiful shots and cinematography that he can bring to a series. So I think it was the perfect combination of a series mixed with the nostalgia from sort of the 90s and before that. And it just kind of like blended everything in. And that's what I think made it the most successful to date now.
So have you sat down and watched the series and got to see who the person is who plays?
Watch the shit out of that. Like, I could not wait. When it came out, I was like, book everything off. I'm just watching this now. Like, yeah, no, I had to watch it totally. Watched everything. And I was so surprised because you got to understand, working on that thing, you were there during when they're making their speeches and doing things, and so, and you're there and you've seen the set, and everywhere they're walking, like you saw it when they were not performing on there. So like I walked into Craig Stone's tomb, for instance, and I'm looking at little like skeletons of birds and random like things like lying around, and I'm just like, what on earth were they shooting here? Like, I don't know what's going on. So like, what was happening here? And you know, now you're watching and you're like, oh my god, like where was I? Like, oh, and everything starts coming to life. And yeah, it's absolutely quite an amazing feeling, yeah, when you start walking around the sets and you start feeling kind of where everything comes from. But yeah, a lot of the time we really have no clue.
Now the show is definitely getting a season 2. Is there like a phone call that you've already received? Be like, hey, but just keep these dates open for yourself.
But yeah, the only thing that I've heard up until now is that they would like to, but until anything's greenlit, no one can really know. So, I mean, I personally would love to have another season and to be involved in that once again, like, you know, in whichever capacity I can. But other than that, it's all up to what's going to happen and what Netflix decides.
Well, Mr. Himschoot, it's been a total honor to speak with you, sir. Thank you so much, and once again, congratulations on being one of the biggest shows in history.
Awesome. Thank you so much, man.
No matter, have a great.
Awesome. You too, man. Have a good one.
Great day or night, sir.